Welcome to today and our continuing series on how the expansion of artificial intelligence and machine learning in the production arts continues to alter the landscape of creative work everywhere, seemingly day by day, if not hour by hour. AI-driven image generation tech started becoming a hot topic in the art world, programs like DALL-E and Stable Diffusion coming on fast, and then the earthquake moment, at least in my perception, Midjourney kind of blew everything open in the public consciousness. Today, our focus is going to be how generative AI's image assembly capabilities have continued to blow up, accelerate. There's disruption going on in the art world, and in art history terms, it's all happened in the blink of an eye. There are a few questions left about the power and potential of this amazing image generation capability, but there's also a lot to discuss about how to best use these new cutting-edge tools. So we have a lot of experts here, and I'm going to toss it to Alex here in the beginning to talk to us through some of what he's experienced. Alex?
Yeah, so, and we'll talk about a couple different ways to generate images. I will admit that most of, and this is images, we'll talk about video in another Monday. So if you're having questions about video, hold. We're talking about AI every Monday. But you know, and of course the leader in this is really Midjourney. So we'll show a little bit of Midjourney of how it works to hopefully kind of demystify a little bit of it, of what it looks like. So I'm going to jump in now. One of the things that's interesting is you don't have to use it in Discord anymore. So Discord was the way that you had to sign up for Midjourney. Now, if you sign up for Midjourney, you can use it on a web page. And there's a lot of tools there. And I thought I'd show you what those tools actually look like. Now, while we were doing the show, I threw in a couple things. I threw in something very simple to show how simple you can go with this. Someone asked about Prime Day. And if I pop this open here, let's see if I can... let's see here. Give me 1 second here.
So it sounds like during this show, you put in a prompt series.
During our show, yeah. I mean,
out.
it was. Let's see here. So let me cut to this. So this is Midjourney here, and during the show, I just said Prime Day. So Prime Day. And I just had it. So there's lots of like, and what's interesting about this, like this one, I don't know what's going on over there. Like, so this is always like, you know, it's like, you know, and then you have, you know, your little motorized Amazon, but it definitely understood Amazon. There's lots of Amazon boxes. Then you're like, I guess don't understand what's going on here. There's there's boxes for everyone here along the street.
It's more like
post-apocalyptic
primal day.
Yeah, this is primal day. Yeah, exactly. And you know, she's very excited about Amazon's boxes here, and I don't know what this truck has. You know, so and now the reason that this is this way is that I want to show you what you have here. So if you put something in, you can have a lot of different options here. So the first thing is that you have, of course, I can do portrait, square, landscape. So it depends on what you're trying to generate for. Now, what I did to get these images was I turned everything up. So I said, stylize as much as you want to, go as weird as you want to, and give me as much variety as you can. If I pull these back, so if I take, like, let's just say I take this down, I reduce the variety, but we'll leave the style up. And I have it on standard mode. Raw mode means more literal to what you're doing. Personalize is it allows you. It'll start looking at the things that you like and guiding towards that. And I have it on turbo right now because it's better for the show. And then I have stealth on, which means I don't publish the images that I'm making to everybody. And then if we do Prime Day, it'll probably be a little bit more tame, and this should come up pretty fast. Turbo is very addicting, I admit, because it goes very fast. So this is in real time, and so still very, you know, it's stylizing a lot. By turning the style up, you tend to have less control, but it tends to make a prettier image, you know. So that's because it has a little more. They've now created
boxes with lights on them.
I never thought of making path lights with Amazon boxes, but you know, that's a new idea. But you can imagine having this one looks very, you know, if we click on this one here, you can see that, this one it feels very realistic, as far as what it looks like here. Now, there's a couple things that you can do once you open it up. So I have a lot of, controls here. So I can go in and I can say, well, I'd like to vary this, but only subtly. Now, usually what I do is I just say, give me a subtle, give me a strong. That's just kind of what I want it to look like. And then creative upscale means it's going to make it bigger. And those usually take a little bit of time. There's usually not much difference between subtle and creative, but it's just what does it make up as it gets bigger. And then you can see remix here is you can update the prompt. So you can change something like you can say, let's see, subtle. And it'll ask you to. This is now you're seeing what the actual prompt was here. And then I say Prime Day in the style of Pixar. Off it goes. And then there's other ways to guide it, as far as images, styles, and prompts. So you can have it actually, and I'll try to show that in a little bit. So here's, sorry. See, here's your
cartoon.
But here's your kind of like, it's in the style of Pixar. So so here you can see how it starts to kind of make that adjustment there. Here you can see that this is a much higher resolution image that it's built out here. That's the upscale, and this one is up. So you can get these images pretty high resolution. And again, for you, if I'm using these, usually what I'm using these for, as we start to create these, is I am using them in presentations. And a lot of people are now using them in their like that article image that you wanted to show. That you would have tried to get a stock image for. That typically, now you can see that this one has a variation, and you can see this one added little lights to it. These are very cute. They're very impractical, but cute lights going down the side. So it'll add a lot of a lot of these can be just a little different than what they were before. Here's one that doesn't make any sense at all. So a lot of things, it doesn't have any. The thing you have to always remember is it doesn't have any operational knowledge. So again, you can go in here, and if you want to do something, for instance, and you can define these, but you can, and you don't need to use these either. So you can say polar bear in the desert. I'm making this up as I go, so I don't have any idea what's going to happen here. Polar bear in the desert, and then you can define it as well as something like a. I'm trying to think of what the 19 by, I think it's, and you could say other things like, so in the style. So in the style is important because it'll give it a sense of the direction you want to go in the style of, let's say National Geographic.
How about with a lightsaber? Can we have a lightsaber in there just for fun? Sure.
I was going to say polar bear in the desert with sunglasses and a mojito.
We'll do that one next. All right. So with a lightsaber, I think mixing and matching that, there'll be too many things.
Yes.
So desert lightsaber in the style of National Geographic. Oftentimes I say Sony A7 S3. Or S2, S3, doesn't matter. It just tells it I want a large frame sensor look. But then I might do something like I want AR, which is the aspect ratio, to be 19:9, which happens to be my iPhone. So if I want to have this be it was 9:19, I think. Hold on. Oh, and if I make a mistake, I can use it to do it again. But 9:19. And then we have stylization up. We'll leave that up. We'll leave it there. And I haven't actually tried to put the AR into the web page. So we're going to see what this, here, I'll reset that. We'll see if the AR overrides it. I think it will. Yeah, it did. So whatever I put into that text prompt fired that off. So now what we're going to see, it's already funny. All right. So
is it that far from Chewbacca already?
Oh man. So anyway, so this guy is like all business here. So look at that. I don't know.
The robes rule.
It's more of a brown bear, though.
Yeah.
I'm only seeing one polar bear in the entire thing.
There he is.
Here he goes. He's having a good time in the desert. He's in the desert, so it followed all the instructions there. Now, one thing that you can do here is you can also just run it again. Just run that again, and it'll be 4 new images that were there. So a lot of times I might run this a couple times to just see where it goes with those things. Now, I also, again, he's very angry. Some of these are very angry polar bears. Look, this one's kind of half polar bear, half
It's hard
Ewok.
for a polar bear to learn how to use a lightsaber.
Wet and
He's
cold.
stressed.
It's like I'm in the desert and I'm freezing.
Yeah, exactly. Like this one is like not. He's very angry because he's like, this is not the desert I asked for here. So anyway, so now we can also go in here and you can simply tap on this and it'll just refill it, and then you can go in here and say, well, I want to do raw. I'm going to bring the stylization down, and it took away my aspect ratio, so I'll do it again. Well, we'll leave it at 1 by 1 just to see what happens there. So you'll see, and then we will fire this off, and we'll get this will happen pretty quickly again. But these would be pretty good for the phone. People, you're going to get people's attention. So this one looks like he's trying to figure it out. Like, what is?
It's like he's trying to lick it. Like
this is. I think there's your classic.
Oh, that's adorable.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. There we have a winner. But this is what it usually happens: is you kind of experiment with these, you turn them around a little bit. Now, what I can do is say, oh, I want to. If I'm I might like that. So what I'll do is I will say, well, I'd like to vary it subtly and vary it strong. More options.
Can you get specific with that variation? In other words, like make it a purple lightsaber and it keeps everything else the same, but just changes the color of the lightsaber.
I don't know if I can do that exactly, but the
I've
remix.
had a big problem with that. It just kind of changes the whole picture, and sometimes it gets the color changed correctly.
Yeah, it. So what that's subtle. So what you saw here is this one. This is subtle. And then this is less subtle, as far as what it does here. So, and you'll find that there's a lot of, minor changes to it. And you'll decide that one, works a lot. Like this one, he doesn't really understand how to hold onto a lightsaber. He's like, I'm going to fist bump my lightsaber while I'm holding it. This one, that's a big lightsaber for that little guy. And so you might get, and what happens is you're kind of finding where you're trying to go here. So we have this one here. It looks like you need to take a shower. But there you have it there. And I still feel like this one's the best one. So I might go back and say, well, just give me some more of these. And then if I do remix strong, this is where I could say with a, let's see, purple lightsaber. Let's try Courtney's thing, and I'll do subtle as well and do the same thing. So this is a remix where I add something. There you go. So there's your purple, but it's changing. It's not changed. That's not the only thing it changed. It's rerunning it. It is largely the same environment.
But it changes the bear completely, unfortunately. Yeah.
And something happened up here. Like I got some good glow up here, and then the glow did not work down here. Now, what I might do here is say, well, vary that subtly and see what happens, and see if it gives me a slightly better one. But you can get, but the thing is that what you realize is very quickly, if you got now this guy, it's a very small lightsaber, but he's a very big. I think the thing is the lightsaber is probably the right size. It's just that the bear is really big, and so it looks very small in his big paws. But this one looks like, oh, I don't even know what happened there. He's got
that lighting is completely wrong.
or he's got some glowing monster blood on him after cutting him in half with the thing.
There's another bear with another lightsaber coming up behind him.
But you can see how, while we were talking, how many different variations we got, and that's really the thing that's a lot of fun with this. Now, if I go, here's the same thing with the Amazon stuff. We were talking about softly catchy monkey, and I ended up here, which was probably a little scary. So like you're just
it's like, not a children's book. That first one in the upper left is not a children's book.
You were like, okay. And then we were talking. I was trying to find a fun logo for a softly catchy monkey, which is one of our guests used in a show last week. But then I think someone was asking about. I think Paul was asking about smart wearables, holographic projections, and so this is I got a bunch of versions of that. I was trying to do brand new instrument. Usually what happens is I have this open while you're softly catchy monkey. So you're like, there we go. But you can get into, and then you go down paths. Like what I loved about this is I know that we can talk about this tomorrow, but I know I can get rid of the text. Like the text is the one thing that has improved in a lot of these is that the text actually says the word that you put in. It still doesn't know what to do with it. But what's interesting is I had all of these like different. He looks really upset. He looks like somebody I actually know. Anyway, so, but what's interesting is how many versions of this that it created of monkeys, and they're not all the same. I mean, they all have their own character to them. Sometimes they put a human in there for no apparent reason. Here's one. He got caught. So anyway, so you have these, have those there. I don't remember what this is. And then you start mixing things together, like electricians trying to fix a giant mainframe computer that is failing, steampunk in the style of Pixar. So you kind of like start mixing and matching all of those bits and pieces, and you end up with, some crazy images.
End up with the turbo encabulator.
Yeah. Oh, we should do turbo encabulator. Anyway.
I want to see how the turbo encabulator has evolved since the last time we did this.
We did this. Yeah, exactly. That's usually a test. Now, one thing to know is you're trying to figure out how to write these things out. I'm giving you very simple ones here, but you can also hit explore. And what's cool about when people post these and they're willing to post them, you can look at what did it take for them to get there. So like this one looks cool. And this is all it said is African hand drum, so that's not a very good example. But and you can go like this. You can go, well, I thought I could just click on it. Anyway, I thought before I could, a lot of the interface changes. But you can go through here like this one to go back to our monkey thing. This is a close-up photograph with a wise monkey face. Now, the funny thing is they got to that, but what they don't show you is all of the other settings that they had and everything else. But you can go through here. A lot of times I'll go through and go, well, what does this look like for me? So I put it in here. I might open up my controls. I'll say that I want it to be, instead, I want it to be 16 by 9. Turn the stylization up, turn the variety up a little bit. We'll leave it on raw. So you can kind of play with what somebody else did. So it's often rendering. So that's another thing that you can do here. But again, if you like this style, so you'll learn a lot about styles. So you'll go, oh, this is a neo-noir digital illustration. So I could take that and go, oh, how about let's see, album cover, Cambodian surf rock.
I don't even know what Cambodian surf rock is.
Oh, it's so good. You obviously don't listen to enough Dengue Fever. Anyway, so but there you go. There's your tip for the day, Dengue Fever. Anyway, I listen to that one. It's my pool music. Anyway, that's probably too much information. So anyway, let's see, just a little bit of weirdness, some variety. There we go. And then we'll put that in. So we'll see what we get out of that. So, but what's fun to explore here is that you can kind of go through here and look at these different things. And you're not just looking at the images they created, but the style. So like you see this, and this is a color in style. So you get a sense of what these different styles and how whether that's I'm using Midjourney as the example because it's the one that I use the most, but a lot of these will all react the same way or in a similar way in the sense that when you tell it a style, so here's an old photograph, photorealistic. So anyway, so you see, this is more of kids drawing probably. Let's see, doodle coloring page. And so if you're looking for a specific style, here's another coloring book one. This is how you kind of find find the look that you're looking for oftentimes. And I spend a lot of time looking at, like, this is what this looks like, Banksy. So I bet you they said, let's see, Banksy. Yep. Banksy made a donut, a rat from a hole, empty white background. So someone wanted to have something in the style of Banksy. This one's hyper real, all caps. Wow. Okay. Anyway, but you can really get, you can really have a lot of fun with it. So, yeah, go ahead.
Just one question: is this new web interface? It used to only be available for Midjourney and Discord. This new web interface, is it available for the free users or is it just for subscription only?
I don't know. I have not been a free user for a long time, so I'm not totally certain. I think it's only if you're paying for it. There's carnivore diet taken, but here you can see taken with a Sony Alpha A7. You get kind of these kind of things here. And again, I wouldn't use them. So here I put this is the same prompt that somebody else used, but with my settings. You get a pretty wide variety. I personally like this one. I think he's the coolest. Like he really
That's adorable.
Like so we'll do some more of that. The other ones are a little scary. Anyway, but here you can see it kind of and again, if you don't like some of these, you just go, well, just run that again for me, and we'll see what we get out of that. So now you can see that I've now got a whole bunch of them, and they're all a little different. They all feel like they were not, So those are here's some more of the Cambodian. See now you got the Angkor Wat in the background, and I don't think I've ever seen anybody actually in a boat in that pool, but okay. And what's interesting is this is relatively recent because the scaffolding is there. The last time I was there, the scaffolding was there, but they actually have scaffolding included into that image rather than a classic Angkor Wat view. So anyway, so there's but that kind of gives you a sense of what those look like. But anyway, that's an introduction to that. I think Nigel might have.
Yeah, Nigel, you want to get in on this?
I don't know. I have a thought question type thing. So I've been playing with Midjourney. I've never seen that interface before. So already thank you for that. I've started playing with that. So that's already an upgrade into my life. But I've got stuck in a slightly different problem. So I pay for Midjourney and I pay for ChatGPT. And I'm starting to use the image, whatever the thing is, an image in ChatGPT. And I can't decide whether I need to be paying for. Yeah. It might be DALL-E, but there's a drop down GPT, which is image creation. And to be honest with you, I'm spending more time on that because I actually quite like the conversation. So for my Substack, I always use that to create the image, and you can go, well, draw this up, now add that. And it becomes much more conversational. And I'm less worried about a professional picture that needs to earn me money and be professional. I'm more looking for almost a throwaway image that sits at the start of a Substack or an internal piece of communication. And I found that actually easier to use because I'm less sensitive. But I have to tell you, looking at the interface you've just shown, this idea of going through the explore is huge and very useful. But I'm sort of at the point where I'm paying for both, and I'm starting to wonder whether I should just pay for ChatGPT and stop paying for Midjourney.
I think that the issue is that I feel like the images that Midjourney produces are prettier. Like they just look nicer than the ChatGPT or DALL-E images. I do agree with you that you feel like you can negotiate more with DALL-E or with ChatGPTs. You can sit there and go, well, take this out and put this in, and take this out and move this over. Sometimes I even have ChatGPT, I say, write me a Midjourney prompt for this. And it will write a verbose Midjourney prompt that produces something else as well. So you can mix and match both of them. I think because I'm able to produce so many images that I like to use or that I like to play with in Midjourney, I think that I feel very like I'm quite happy with the Midjourney solution. And I do so little image creation in ChatGPT, but I use it all day. To me, they're totally different worlds. Like it's, Midjourney, I obviously don't think about it for text prompting. I mean, text, generation or anything else. But with, so for me, I haven't, I admit that I'm less, and we'll see if I can pull it up here for people to see. I take a lot of photos. What's interesting is I take a lot of photos in ChatGPT and ask what it is. Like I'll take a picture of a plant and go, what is this? Or what is, what am I looking at here? And it does a pretty good job of telling me what I'm looking at. So those are some of the things there. I'll see if I can pull it up real quick and we can look at it here too.
In the interim, Courtney, you had some thoughts. Did you get to them?
Yeah, I've butted my way in. Sorry.
That's all right. No problem.
Right.
I just want to make sure we covered everything you wanted to talk about. Yeah. There is so much going on here. And, we're starting to see with things like Poe that these big language libraries and things are starting to interact and chat with each other. So I think your question, Nigel, is pretty important now in terms of which ones do what, which ones are, if you want these kind of results. The frustration for me when I have tried to use these tools to do things like storyboards is exactly what we're seeing here. I want to keep a bunch of this stuff from this one that I like and then do a series that are derivative of that so that it looks cohesive. And it seems to change and reimagine every time the new prompt goes in, so I can't do that. I'm sure that these are things that everybody's asking for, and they'll eventually probably work on some kind of lock this and this and this.
And that's why I quite like the ChatGPT or the DALL-E interface, because I was playing with it earlier this morning. I said, produce me a picture of a bunch of people reading a newspaper or getting angry. Now make the people more diverse. Now add a panda bear. And right. It was able to, without me having to think through carefully the typing, to do that. Now, does the image look as good as particularly as that polar bear one? I don't think it does, but it does look good enough.
One of the home runs I think Midjourney hit right out of the bat that caused it to be so is just the surprise and delight element. I'm just going to put these things in, and almost every image that it generated in the early days for me was like, wow, that's really cool. And I think that really emotional connection to the tools is what got everybody super excited. It's also maybe the biggest challenge in the future, from my point of view, is that if everybody can put in a prompt and get excellent looking art out, is there value still to excellent looking art, or is there just so much of it that it devalues some of the traditional skills? And that's a question way beyond my pay grade, and I don't think we're coming anywhere close to answering. Jason, you had some thoughts too.
Yeah, along those lines. I mean, I've used DALL-E extensively, and if I were to be able to point to one just big but small but huge difference between DALL-E and Midjourney, it's the dynamic lighting. It's, in that polar bear image that Alex did, the backlighting through the fur. I don't think I've ever seen DALL-E do anything anywhere near that. And it's for some reason, it just kind of nails this dynamism that you don't tend to see, at least in DALL-E.
You're right.
At least
that
I haven't been able to get it out of there.
Light is beautiful, and it really sets the polar bear off with his lightsaber. And without those little highlights on the back of the ankles or back of the heels of the polar bear, it wouldn't be the same kind of image. And it's exactly what I was talking about. It was like, that's the wow. It's not just an image, but it's a good image. It follows a lot of the rules of art and so forth in terms of keeping you focused on the subject. The exposure on his face with that little different lighting color kind of draws you to his face. Those are high-level photographic tricks that are kind of built into the model. It always seemed to me it's been built into the model of Midjourney that just keeps really high quality. It's that wow factor. Wow, this is better than I expected. Courtney, your thoughts?
I just tried Copilot, which is now built into all versions of Windows 11, which uses DALL-E 3 as part of Copilot. And they just changed the interface, which I really like, because it used to appear as this panel on the side of your main monitor. Well, there's your polar bear with a lightsaber, and notice it put in the northern lights behind it, which is cool. But that's uses DALL-E 3 as its generating engine for it.
And they isolated him on a breaking apart iceberg flow.
Iceberg. Isn't that amazing? But it does have that backlight.
But did you ask him for the
did you ask for the desert?
No, I didn't say for desert. I just said polar bear with a lightsaber. And so this is what it came up with. I didn't use the same prompt. It would be interesting to use exactly the same prompt in those two.
I did it. I did this in DALL-E or ChatGPT, and this is why I use Midjourney, which is that there it is. So that's the first try.
Slightly droopy lightsaber.
It's accurate, but if you look at as Jason was talking about, if you look at level of realism that you get between. It's hard to say realism when you're talking about a polar bear in the desert with a lightsaber. But I think that when you compare these two images, they're not really comparable. Like that's the. And again, I think that. Oops, I lost it. Anyway, but that's the challenge that I have, is that I get a lot of things like that. Which is that the ChatGPT stuff is fine. It's just not great. And so I do agree with Nigel that I really like the ability to go back and forth, but I find that the deep reflections and everything else tend to be a little bit more accurate, in Midjourney. And I think Midjourney has the advantage that it's just so many people. And this was it's kind of an interesting puzzle, which is that, of course, DALL-E came out and we all got excited. And then they just took a little too much time to release the product. So the only reason most of us didn't even know Midjourney existed. Midjourney became a thing because DALL-E didn't get out. And this is the problem with AI right now. DALL-E didn't quite get out of the gate. It was very limited because they were trying to control it and trying to make sure that nobody does anything bad with it or whatever. And while they were figuring that out, Midjourney said, hey, we're available on Discord. And a bunch of us signed up for it. And then you get good at it. But the advantage you get there is not only revenue, which Midjourney is making, but also hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, it's not like when people say, well, when are they going to make money? They're making money now. It's got like 40 people doing this. There's a lot of server costs, I'm sure, but still they're generating a lot of revenue as well. And what you're paying is kind of calculated into that. So it's not like you have as much, it's not all you can eat. It depends on what you're paying for. I pay, I think, the equivalent of $50 or $60 a month for Midjourney. So I have one of the higher, not the highest, but one of the higher, and I pay it by the year. So it's just in December I get a big bill. so anyway, so I don't think about it the rest of the year. But I use it so often and for fun, for sending things to people, sending reactions, putting in a variety of my things. I will say that the Noun project, which Jason recommended, filled up a whole bunch of what I was using Midjourney for, because there's so many icons of everything. So I still go back to, that's the only stock I think I use anymore. Because if I want an image, I figure, well, if I spend 10 minutes playing with Midjourney, I'm going to end up with an image that's pretty close to what I want.
We have questions coming in on all of this, so let's dive into our first question. Jason, what do we got?
Ryan Thomason in Houston, Texas writes in, I know Midjourney is the king right now, but have you played with the others like Leonardo.ai or Ideogram.ai?
It just seems like there's so many services out there popping up. I was doing kind of an overall survey for another thing I'm working on, and the number of alternate AI enablements, is that a good word? Not only standalone websites and things like that, but also, as everyone knows, all the major companies are working on increasingly integrating AI into just standard daily things. There's a lot of stuff like the simple autocompletes in almost all the websites that are now driven by an AI backend. And there's also just, this is going to be so ubiquitous and it's going to do so much good, particularly, and I referred to this a couple of times. We had Michael Cioni on one of our shows on Thursday a while back, and he was talking about the split between utility AI and generative AI. The utility AI space just seems to me it's not going to stop. There's so many ways that this basic underlying technology is going to make life easier for people, literally just dozens, if not hundreds of times a day. And then there's the whole kind of more monolithic generative thing where you're trying to create something using these large models. That's kind of a different thing. There's just so much to go that I'm really glad we're focusing on trying to make some sense of this for everybody. Every Monday for the next, I don't know how many weeks, we're going to be diving into this. We've got new topics coming every week. For right now, though, we're going to go on to our next question. Oh, Alex, you wanted to say something about that.
While everyone was talking, I wasn't able to get into everything, but I was able to get into Leonardo. Okay. So Leonardo.ai. So I'm going to try the same. Now admittedly, I don't have all the same settings and everything else. So I'm going to try, let's see here. I'm going to try grabbing.
I think there's so much venture capital who knows this is going to be a huge thing that everybody who's got skills and an infrastructure to work in this area is probably investigating it.
So the interesting thing here is that you have. So let me cut to this. So this is Leonardo, and so I've signed up. I've created my username, all the other stuff here, and so I put that in, and I can let's see here. This is
I think you have to hit the generate prompt, that rainbow button.
No. I'm just looking at the different options here. So I've got the prompt enhance. It says auto. So we'll have dynamic. I see. So you can. There's a lot of different. So it is interesting that it has a lot of different controls here. So let's go ahead and try. See what Leonardo does out of the gate. And we have it set now. This is probably going to take a little longer.
If you look at the preset top left, it'll define the type of image. I'm just playing with it too. The type of image you're going to get.
It looks a lot more curated just right out the gate. Just the menu options are designed to kind of guide you into a better outcome.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a
Which
big
prompt
difference.
did you use? No, the same one.
I used the polar
bear
bear in the desert with a lightsaber and the style of National Geographic. And this polar bear is going to have problems. That's all I'm saying. He's stuck himself with the lightsaber.
He launched his lightsaber blade, into the stratosphere.
Hold it forward. Don't hold it backwards.
I'm just going to assume he's got a Count Dooku style, right angle. It's really excited about the sparks, but I'm saying that it should probably
not so good about how a lightsaber is used.
It says I did say with a lightsaber. I didn't say holding a lightsaber. To be fair,
okay.
So again, what I would say is
that bear has a problem with two arms.
That bear has a hand in its elbow,
a vestigial hand. That's very odd.
Yeah. So
I love it.
Yeah. So. I'm going to turn this off for a second, and we'll try to generate again. Let's see here. We'll see what happens.
It has a problem with text, I've noticed, Leonardo, too.
It's definitely something that was that got sorted out a bit with Midjourney as they finally, I think in version 6, got Midjourney largely has the right number of fingers now. And mostly the right number of arms, but not always. There are definitely things you can ask for that you're going to get like some more arms than I expected there.
3 legs, yes.
So now now I think that here what's happening is that it's using the force. So that's
right.
It is using the force to wield its thing. Oh, this one's not too bad. It's in the desert. It's got a lightsaber. It looks like it means business.
It's a polar bear, definitely. It's not a brown bear.
It has a lot of toes there. So this one, it's he's
a vestigial lightsaber growing out of its side right there.
He's like again, another force use there. But these are pretty accurate. Other than but you can see how you would start to play with it here. But it's an interesting interface that we probably should spend more time on. And again, one of the things about for those listening that we are we appreciate people throwing in ideas because we're thinking about all of these things. I think this is really us getting this is probably less of a lesson and more of a exploration with each other, talking about what things we're using and how we're using it. So definitely throw those comments in as questions if you want to as well.
Let's go to our next one. We've got some more coming in here.
Jack Cannon in Phoenix, Arizona writes in, when you have issues with Midjourney changing specific details, have you had success taking it into Photoshop to use generative AI?
I've heard of people doing that. I've never had. And Alex, I think you talked about trying to do that at one point, right?
We will hold that thought, Jack. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. So I'm going to talk about it both with real images, but also with Midjourney. So we're talking about the way the schedule. There was a fill-in for tomorrow, so we kind of moved this in. So we have 2 generative AI next to each other, which we're trying to avoid, but we're going to do it tomorrow. So we'll talk about generative fill in Photoshop, which I use extensively. And so we'll talk a little bit about that tomorrow, but stay tuned for that.
Okay, so Tuesday, tomorrow on the show, same time, same place. Not same time, the second hour, same time. Yep. Let's go to the next question.
Michael Smith, I believe, is with a fragment in Silverado, California, saying Midjourney web subscription only. They think he's following up, and you have to create 100 images in Discord first. I believe that's about the web interface.
Oh, Alex, do you know about that?
So, yeah, so what he's saying there is that you have to have already created 100 images in Discord before, and it is subscription only. And by the time, I think by the time that it came out and was available, I had created probably 20 or 30,000 images. So I don't think that it's, I think it just let me use it. But that does look like there's a little bit of a process to get to that web interface.
Yeah. And for new adopters, the old system was you had to be in Discord. So you had to have a Discord account to access Midjourney. And so that's going away apparently. And as that goes away, more people should be able to explore. Courtney?
I was just going to say for Copilot, apparently it's free because I do not pay them any money for Copilot. It is now has a floating window interface so I can put it on the second screen. Before it would just open up a panel on your right screen and move everything that you had on your main screen over to the left a little bit. So that's new and that's exciting. And it seems to be free. I haven't used it enough to know if there's a limitation on Copilot for the number of images you can create per month. There may be a cap on it.
There was news, what was it, day before yesterday? I think it was 3 days ago that Microsoft actually has new technology, but they don't want to release it because they're really concerned about the possibility of it faking things like people's voices so accurately.
Vasa one, yes.
Yeah, it's they're saying, no, this is not going out the door until we put some guardrails on people using this for ill purposes, which just tells us this technology is potentially so transformative and so powerful that even the people who will market it are being a bit cautious. And so we don't want to get into a world where you can't trust anything because every voice on your phone and everything else is suspect. So good for them that they said in this particular case, safety over profit, and we'll see where it goes from there. Alex, your thoughts?
Yeah, we're not talking about, since we have a moment here, we're not talking about voice today, but what I will say is that I heard my first article on NOAA, which is News Over Audio, and it said this is read by a voice from 11 Labs, and I was like, "Well, here it comes."
Here it comes.
Now again, NOAA, you have to remember, it's like 4 people. Like there's 4. I don't think they're probably going to keep them, but what will probably happen is we'll just get more and more articles.
Yeah. So if nothing else, there's a theme here, which is that the world is changing really fast in terms of AI, everything. And that's why we're all paying attention to it, because the more you know, the easier it is to navigate these shoals. Let's get to our next question.
Tommy Schatz in St. Paul, Minnesota writes in, what video clip AI options are there?
Increasingly more every week, and we will, of course, be looking at that probably at the end of this series of Monday Things, somewhere near, when we've covered a lot of the basics here, we will definitely take a look at what is possible in terms of video. It is changing amazingly fast. Alex, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I was going to say, we're definitely covering video generation soon, so stay tuned.
Yep. Next question.
Roscoe Jones in Madison, Indiana writes in, Nigel said something he made with AI was, quote, good enough. So in what areas of production are current results good enough? And are we talking 4K HDR specs or the content storytelling is good enough?
Nigel, you want to start us off with your thoughts?
Yeah, I was very specific that I use it in my Substack, which is a webpage, substack.nigeldesau.com, I think it is, where I post an article every week. I need an image to capture people to read the article. That's what I use it for. That's my version of production. I think asking it to do 4K HDR in professional cinematography or something may be a push too far, but that's what I meant by good enough for what I think is almost a disposable image.
Alex?
Exactly what Nigel said. I think that we have to remember that if we think about the pyramid of this is production, everybody creating images, people who care about copyright are right there. It's just, like everything else is happening, whether it's Nigel or myself using them for presentations, for education, for all these, for their web page images. There's just an enormous volume of people who just don't care about copyright. They don't care about their copyright. They don't care about other people's copyright either. They just don't. It's just like it's not in the world. They're not trying to sell something. They're not trying to sell the content. I think we think that everybody. I think content creators think about copyright like I'm trying to sell content, and they think in a world of that. But what they don't realize, I think sometimes, or they don't get their head around, is that a lot of people are just making images for their family, for their business plan, for their fun presentations, for their classroom, and it's just to lighten things up a little bit or create something that's a visualization of an idea. And so I think that's the challenge is that that there's just a large number of people that again don't care about any of those things, and they're not worried about copyrighting their image. They're just doing it. It's on a presentation, and if someone else uses it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's interesting for me. This is kind of a personal thing, but I used to suggest that ideas didn't have much value. And the reason I said that, and I think I've said this on the show way in the past, is that it's really the implementation of an idea that drives value. This has been fascinating to me because this is one of those tools where the ability to implement an idea, at least in visual form, has really crushed out most of the friction in doing that. You can sit there and type in prompts or speak prompts into a system and get a really satisfying result back out without human intervention. And I'm still struggling with that a little. Alex, you look like you want to weigh in on that.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that where this really impacts people is stuff like stock photography, which is that you don't have, like you just want to use it wherever you want to use it. And you don't really, and so this kind of thing, you can be much more precise than you can with stock photography. And a lot of times, I haven't bought a single piece of stock photography since I got the Noun project again that Jason had recommended for icons, because I will say that Midjourney and other ones are not very good at building icons. You can, but I find those are it's much faster. But I think that's the challenge is if you're making something that doesn't have a lot of specific value, then I think you're in a that's complicated. But I do think that the value of content generation in isolated as a piece of content is probably going to drop pretty dramatically over time. And I think that again, as these tools get better, and as they, the thing is that people aren't trying to figure out whether it's runway, you're doing video or audio or all these things. They're not trying to figure out, some people are, but the vast majority are not trying to figure out how to make a copyrightable material. They're just making things to put up on YouTube or to put up on, to put somewhere else. And they're not trying to tie that all back. And the reason that that's important is that as more and more people are able to do things that they enjoy more and more, what you're competing for is time. And this gets very complicated if you're a TV network or a film company or even streaming. As people fill more of their own time and as they fill other people's time with the content that they create that doesn't have any copyright, doesn't really matter. TikTok is like everyone's copying everything from everybody else. So the thing is, as people spend more time on that, they're spending less on the copywritten material because they're able to generate that on their own. And so I think that's the real challenge is not that someone's going to take AI and turn it into copywritten material. I mean, there's some danger of that, but that's not the real danger. The real danger is people are making content on their own that doesn't need anything. They don't need to buy, and that's a complicated problem.
Right. That disruption in traditional marketplaces has been happening since the slide rule came out and was replaced by calculators. So it's not something we haven't seen before, but it is disruption.
It's been happening since we made the wheel. I mean, there's a lot of people that were carrying things around and then suddenly are like, I can put two wheels together and I don't need four people anymore.
Right. So we are in one of those things. I do think the pace of this development with so many companies and so many alternatives, and there's so much to wrap heads around if you want to be even basically conversant with this new AI stuff, it is a pretty big load for a lot of people. And it's interesting to me who I know that still doesn't understand any of this is happening. There's a group of people who don't understand any of this is going on, and there's a group of people who are just fascinated and have been in since the beginning because they saw the potential. And it's going to be interesting to see how this shakes out. Jason, you had a comment here?
Yeah, I mean, so I don't want to disparage DALL-E. I find that DALL-E is really great at making graphs, and I don't mean perfectly mathematical graphs. Let me give you an example. I had 4 years of dog liver enzyme tests that I asked ChatGPT to turn into a table very quickly. And then I said, okay, I want to say each one of those over time. Just plot those, each one over time, each enzyme over 4 years. Didn't need to be absolutely accurate. I just wanted to see the trend lines. And it did a beautiful job and worked perfectly, much faster than I could have done it in Excel, even with a table.
Another excellent example of what Michael Cioni called utility AI, turning AI's amazing strengths into taking the drudgery out of a task. Alex?
Yeah, and we'll talk about this more when we will be talking about, we're talking about images and Midjourney a lot today. We will be talking more about just utility AI in ChatGPT in this series. But yeah, you can even do things like give me an Excel file. I actually just ask it, give me these things and I want them in these columns, and then generate an Excel file with that, and it'll just go thinking, and then boom, there's an Excel file, and you can then open it up and use it as you need to.
Let's go to the next question.
Douglas Carmichael writes in, how do you think the Midjourney artist's lawsuit will play out?
Oh, if we only knew. Courtney, what's your thinking currently about it?
Well, I'm not exactly familiar with this particular lawsuit. There are several lawsuits having to do with whether the rights of a generative AI to use publicly available artwork on the internet that can be viewed on the internet as training material. Whether it can be used, if it can be seen, it can be used, or whether you have to license that. Whether the result is infringing on the copyright of an artist, that they're going to lose because there's fair use and there's if you modify or transform a object of art to something else, it's not, you can't really sue them for copyright. But the question is whether if they can view it online, is viewing it and using that captured image that anyone can view to use in training legal or not? That is the big question. And it depends on who wrote the briefs and how they're approaching it as to whether or not it's going to be successful or not. And it depends if it goes to a jury trial or if it's a bench trial. It depends on the judge and depends on the jury and how smart they are. So we'll see. Alex?
Yeah, one of the challenges is that the risk of a lawsuit has kept a lot of people on the sidelines. So hey, the lawyers can obviously see that this could potentially be a big problem. The actual lawsuit might win, but if it loses, the amount of investment into this area will go up tenfold. There's a lot of people just waiting to see how this all turns out. Once it's gone to the Supreme Court, and once the Supreme Court decides whatever it's going to decide, because it's not going to be out of jury, it's going to be out whoever loses is going to keep on appealing until it gets to the Supreme Court, and then the Supreme Court is going to make a decision. And the chances of winning this lawsuit is very low. It's not zero, but I would probably give it a 10% chance of success.
And by winning,
Nigel?
you mean the chances of the artists prevailing, right?
Exactly. I just don't think that I think that the problem is that it's how artists work all the time. I used to have a vision wall on the side of all the stuff that I like all the kinds of ads that I like were across an entire wall of feel and things and people. We do this all the time. That's the hard part, is that as artists, we gather all kinds of things that we think are cool, and we keep track of them, and we look at them, and we watch movies all by one director, and we are inspired by that, and then we create something. And it's really going to be hard for a judge to separate that an AI tool looking at lots and lots of things and then creating something. It's going to be hard to. Artists copy each other by accident all the time, almost verbatim. So it's just very, very hard to, and sometimes on purpose. But the point is that it's just going to be very hard for a judge to see the difference between those two actions, other than one's automated and scalable.
In the advertising world where I used to work, the term of art is mood board. You would assemble, these are the things kind of like what I'm thinking about. Now artists go do something in that style. And you're right. Is that far away from what we're talking about here? Nigel, you had a thought.
Well, I'm clearly waiting for the AI that will tell me whether the AI image created was copyright material or not, which sort of is the absurdity that this is going to get to before the whole thing implodes and goes
So
away.
the AI copyright police policing AI. What could possibly go wrong in that kind of situation? Next question.
Ronnie Hofsoy in Tromsø, Norway writes in, what is the best channel to follow to keep up like Matt Wolfe, and includes a link?
I'm not familiar with Matt. Does someone here? Listen, we all of us are heavily involved in technology and trying to understand it. We know we're here every day talking about this, so we study a lot. And I don't know if anybody feels differently than I do, but I feel like I still know 5% of this. And I think for the rest of my life, I'm going to feel like I understand 5% of this, because there's just so much action in so many quarters, and there's so much value to be had for the companies who crack these nuts. Courtney, what do you think?
Sorry, I got caught with my hands on the keyboard and away from the mouse. Yeah, Matt Wolfe, I think his website's called Future Tools. I think it's .com. Matt Wolfe, Future Tools. And it's very well organized, and it has all to do with AI, and is also his YouTube channel. He does YouTube stuff on what's new today, or what's new this week, what's new in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and he'll do a deep dive, maybe a 10 or a 20-minute video several times a week on what's new, what's happening in the world of AI. So that's a good place to keep an eye on it. And Future Tools has links on his website to all these different AI, generative AI and chatbots and everything else. So it's great. It's a great place to start to get involved with AI.
And don't forget, we are here at Office Hours. We're in the middle of kind of our AI summer. Every Monday, we're going to be looking at a different aspect of AI and generative and things like that. And as Alex mentioned earlier, if you weren't around for the beginning of the show, tomorrow we're actually doing another AI investigation. So this will continue to come up, and we hope that you continue to be involved and bring your friends. Oh, we do have another question in, so let's go next question.
Roscoe Jones in Madison, Indiana writes in, are you reading any blogs on AI? And he includes a link from Databricks.
Yeah, I think, boy, this discussion is so active across all sorts of industries and across the world. Courtney, have you seen anything else you're interested in?
I have watched a few of them, and once you subscribe to one or two of those AI-based places, like it's futuretools.io. That's where I just took a look at it. There's the site, and it has YouTube channels on all these different things. You just click off the things you're interested in, and this is run by Matt Wolfe, and it will take you to those places. So it's a good place to start, and you can find a lot of other. I don't know about this Databricks resource, but it may be another collective website like futuretools.io.
And don't forget, once you start searching on AI, the AI bots will be watching you do that, and will feed you more AI-related news. It's the way of the world now. Some thank yous today, as always, to our producers, to the people who come here every day, pay attention to the show, ask questions, vote those questions up and down. You really are the heart and soul of what we do here. We're here to kind of serve you. So if you haven't gotten involved on the back end of Office Hours and gotten your Mukana thing set up and the rest of the things that we provide, please consider doing so. That allows you to vote these questions up and down that we deal with every day. And for our producers, thank you so much, because you really do drive the show. And your votes in the back end determines what we speak to the longest and in the most depth. To all the panelists who have shown up here, and particularly to those who are here today, kind of putting themselves out front and saying, I will discuss this in public to keep these conversations going and to generate additional questions. Thank you very much to everybody here and everybody who's here all week long, and really all the people in the past who've come in and contribute to making Office Hours what it is. And I always leave them for last, because I always want to make them as special as possible. The back end crew, the people who you do not see, who are at computers all over the planet, who are helping to make Office Hours work the way that it does. Our huge thanks to this amazing volunteer crew, not just switching the show in live time, but who are doing things like helping us determine what topics we're going to come to, the councils who sit and figure out what are the people who are interested in audio looking for, and what can we present to them in coming shows to make that happen. If you would like to have some effect on those things, remember that this is an all-volunteer organization, and we are more than happy to have you come in and volunteer. If you start with the Office Hours website and look at for volunteer opportunities, you'll find a lot of them. It's a great group of people, and I think we all end up benefiting ourselves a lot by learning so much just interacting with such a great global community of technicians, artists, and everything else. Stats today, I don't have them up. Let's see. The teletraversal, we have covered 51,000 miles via your questions. That's how much we would have had to travel if we went around to talk to you individually. That's 82,000 kilometers and also equivalent to 402 million bananas for scale. Remember, After Hours goes on all the time. We'll see you tomorrow.
We need a banana lightsaber for scale, just for fun.
Here's the
scale.
people aren't going to see this, but this is everyone. They're upset about the wheel. They're all fighting.
Oh, they're upset. So wheel tug-of-war.
Yeah, they're like, no, yes, no. We must have a wheel. No, we can't have a wheel. How could you?
Ice shoe horses. This is death to our industry.
What's wrong with this picture? The building behind it couldn't be built without a wheel.
Ooh, I can't imagine rolling those columns on logs. That would have been nowhere near as fun.
Think of all the people.
And only 3 people have discovered color.
Great to see everybody. See you all tomorrow.